here, Wendy and I are looking at the work of the group known as the Planes. And we're starting off with Stacy. And we're hoping to see lots of process shots. It's helpful for everyone and just good labeling of what you're doing here, which is nice. Already, I'm thrilled with your process. Oh, that's a great shot. Beautiful shot. Great photos. That's nice. Excited to have landed on a design.
Mhm.
Third collage. Your process photos are terrific, Stacy. Design for the third collage is complete. Lovely. I've been looking forward to using these Scrippy Scraps. That you're the second person to say that, so I'm glad. I love the Ziploc bag of Scrippity Scraps. Oh, wait. Oh, these are still not finished. Okay, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
these are all processed.
Yeah, great process. Okay, nice image, enlarged beater collage, very nice, beautiful line. You fill the space elegantly, superb craft.
Yeah, even this, what I would consider this awkward in other compositions, but it really doesn't bother me here because it just feels like another line, like that's imitating this sort of line weight. So it's nice.
Agreed. And if you look on the left-hand side of that one, it's a similar thing where it's
Mm,
almost touching, but it isn't. It feels very intentional. I agree.
yeah.
Very nice. Beautiful craft. This is your round shapes. This one maybe a little less so of what we were just saying.
Mm,
Right where your cursor is, that bottom left, I just want to see the rest of that shape that's gone. Yeah, right there. Like, where did it go? However, I just really appreciate these shapes. And even that same shape where your cursor is reminds me back of Jessica's, what we were just looking at, like the face. You know, it's got the two little eyeballs in a way, but I just appreciate your shapes that you've come up with here. The upper right, oh, sorry.
oh,
One final thing about that. The upper right corner, that round black shape. Yeah, I'm really tempted to do something else with that, even if it's just subtle cut out. Because as I kept looking at this, I'm like, my eye keeps going to that, but the other shapes are so delightful. That just felt really heavy to me.
yeah.
What I really appreciate about this, again, it feels very complete, very intentional use of the space, and its simplicity and balance. Scrippy Scraps. So this is another one. It's obviously the assignment is pretty wide open, but it feels a little bit like you're trying to illustrate something with your scraps rather than just using them scraps for scraps sake. But having said that, once again, such elegant composition. That swooping line on the left, if you can just swoop on that. Yeah, that to me is a really important part of this composition because it's such a beautiful contrast to this
Mm,
little creature. Again, I would say I feel that it's a illustration with the classic sun in the upper left corner. Sometimes we see the sun in the upper right corner.
yeah.
And obviously it's masterfully done. Your craft is extraordinary. I feel the Scrippity Scraps, but I would just encourage you, at least for this, to not worry about being representational. But again, your craft and your documentation is quite good. Yeah, so very strong, sweet, excellent process, helps all of us to see, and great results. Next, we will look at Kayla, who we really need to see process. I see 5 finished pieces. So this is your enlarged beater. Yeah, I'd love to see this unmatted, and I would also encourage you to play more with line weight and even cutting some line out of the black shapes. and then what's happening on your edges. This is, oh, that's, oh yeah, okay. So here we go. This spiral shape. What I appreciate about this is the different scale of the two. You know, again, here I feel the swirly thing in the right has a different weight than the swirly thing in the left. But I would say craft is still a little bit of an issue. Some of the pieces just feel a little raggedy. And I'd love to hear what Wendy has to say about what's happening in the middle top. What do you think about that zone?
Yeah, I mean, is this the one with the scraps or is this?
No, they had to do something just with round shapes.
Oh, well, I think for me, like, there's a lot of awkward spaces in the middle part here. Like this, I feel like maybe you wanted to show that they weren't touching, but if that was intentional, you should have put this one a little bit more far to the right. And then these two, I don't know if, I don't know. I just wish there was more negative space between these three, I think. I don't think these three need to be touching
Yeah.
at all. Yeah.
And then also in that,
Especially because you have like the negative space here that it's so nice. And then here it just feels like it's a little bit clumped and, you know, like begging for space almost.
yeah, we had mentioned this at someone else's, just the idea of the spiral is a shape that we've all seen. You know, it's really recognizable, and thinking like the whisk and the spiral. So what can you add to that? And how can you make that into something that, you know, has a twist to it, or you're running something white through that shape or something else. So I think the strength is on the contrast of the two spiral things, but as Wendy has just said, the other shapes, they just feel awkward.
Yeah.
And this is using positive and negative space. I guess it also doesn't quite feel resolved to me. I can't really put my finger on it. It might be that like piece that looks like a roller skate at the bottom. That whole area there is the part that I'm not quite sure on, because it's sort of touching, but not really. I can see a little bit of a white line. It's an interesting shape, but I've also really lost sight of kind of the egg beater thinking, which is fine. I see whisk pieces, negative space, more of the handle and gear pieces. Okay, got it. What do you think about this one?
I think I keep looking over here. Like I can tell that they're being overlapped. It's not completely invisible. And I think that's really distracting me right now. And the thing that you said about this little piece, like the awkward touching, and then I think these are like cuttings with negative space, but it's so subtle that it almost feels like an accident. But yeah, my eye just keeps being distracted by this right now.
Okay, next one. Yeah, and again, Kayla, it really helps us to see these unmatted also, and to see process, because it's great to be able to kind of recognize what you have matted, to see what it looks like with what else is happening in your picture plane. So this one, that's funny. You think this one feels the least like the actual egg beater, which is fine. The Scrippity Scraps didn't have to feel like an egg beater. It's just responding to the scraps. But actually, I feel this one feels more like an egg beater than the previous one, which is fine. Again, these are all abstracted. Yeah, I felt more egg beater in this.
Yeah, it's just sort of mechanical, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And this is your open piece, deconstructed. Again, I'd love to see this without the mat. I think it's being trapped. Things are just touching the edge awkwardly. I think what I love is again, the scale change, the rhythm that you're starting to create with these shapes, and the round open handle, and then the other round at the other end. But I think the mat isn't helping you.
Yeah, agreed. But
Give us more process.
the different line weights are really nice.
Yeah, more process, please. Next, we have Jennifer. We used to have 2 Jennifers in the class, and we are down to 1 Jennifer. Oops, I almost kicked over my coffee. Process shots, all very important. My round only process, negative process. Oh my goodness. This first collage. Whoa.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, my thing
No,
is
that's
going
fine.
crazy.
That's fine. Very exciting, actually. This is great. She says, I didn't go exactly with the drawing and use it as a reference. That's all this is meant to be. Again, as I said, warming up for something, just feeling, getting into that movement of, making a mark. So, it doesn't need to look like it. I love your comments. Kind of like one of my fur babies, sassy. It feels very graphic to me. It's another one of these ones that fills the space so confidently. I'd love to see it unmatted, Jennifer. Yeah, it's really great and graphic. This one is so true. With round as the assignment, it doesn't have to be a circle. Exactly. The beater as the basis. Yeah, it says it doesn't translate well through the scan. I just don't think the mat is helping it. Again, I love the irregularity. I love this sort of like feeling, but the mat is crushing the beauty of this mark.
Yeah. I love how these like don't even feel like cutouts. They're super graphic.
I know. And I also felt almost like that was like calligraphic, like an ink mark.
Yeah.
Used a fastener from the egg beater and just grew from there. I love the abstraction. The mat is killing it. It also seems upside down. The mat, the larger proportion should be at the bottom, just so you know, everyone. But I love this abstraction. Yeah, get rid of the mat. This is my favorite. Huh. And this, I'm guessing, is from the Scrippity Scraps. It's sideways too. I can't really. I'm missing out on the actual orientation. So again, if that's a sun in the upper left-hand corner, I'd get rid of it. But it's a weird angle that you photographed this up. And then you mentioned you wish you could clean up the lines and curves. Yeah, just practice, and having a really sharp knife, I think, is helpful. But I actually would like to see this space activated more. I'd love to see a little bit more interplay. The filling of these 4 corners this way seems very odd to me.
Yeah.
And then these little things inside of this other thing, it's a strange. I'd love to hear what your inspiration or what you were thinking in terms of, was this meant to illustrate something or what? Scrippy Scraps. Yes, this one I feel, again, goes back to more of your series in the confident filling of the space. I almost feel like an overhead of a highway, and those 3 little cars are getting off the exit lane or something, and then there's a truck in the upper left corner. And then the white negative space almost feels like a vehicle to me. I think it's quite stunning.
My immediate thought was that it looked like a web browser page. Like this looks like a little, I don't know, and then that's like the URL, and then this is like whatever, like a video or something. Maybe I'm too crazy and I'm looking at screens way too much, but I feel like the shape of the composition just reminded me of like literally just Google Chrome or something.
I saw automobiles and spaceships. In any case, what I really appreciate about this is the scale. The thin lines, that thick curved line, those 3 little dots or squares, and then the upper left again, to me, that's like a semi truck up on the upper left. Those are 3 cars. I just think it's a stunning composition, but it's also sideways. So I, um, I think it's supposed to be this way as I turn my computer. Anyway, small details, but if I would make sure you're photographing these correctly and also show us these unmatted, Jennifer, but really strong, great craft. And then we have Veronica. Veronica, we need more process shots. This is rather dynamic. And do we have the little comments?
Yes.
And are people commenting somewhere else? I hope. Okay, so it seems like this one and number 2 feel very much the same. Yeah, your photographs are too small and really hard to see. We'd love to see more process, and also nice to see, because that's a beautiful sketch. We'd like to see, you know, work in process, and also show us these without the matte, because you probably already discovered this, they change considerably. To me, this was a really wonderful piece in that I appreciate the angularity of it, and then the shape within the shape, the negative shapes that's being formed. And also when you upload these, make sure you give them a caption so we know what we're looking at. Not everybody does these in order, and it's just a helpful reference. So keep that in mind for this week's assignment. So I just thought this was pretty wonderful. This one, I didn't have the same excitement for. And again, I'm thinking this is the round pieces, mostly because of the way it's touching the edges and the heaviness of the handle and that first round shape. Nothing's happening between them, and that's a lost opportunity. You're just cutting something white. If you looked at the notan, just thinking about positive, negative relationships, because you're doing it quite well on the bottom, but that top just feels a little like meh, heavy. What about this, Wendy? What do you think?
I think this one is a little bit too static. Like I enjoy the movement that's happening here that meets my eyes for sure, but then there's nothing really that exciting happening over here, and it's also centered.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish even like maybe cutting some pieces like right here in the black or like through the black would make this like more dynamic and interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I love the abstraction, but I'd encourage more of that too. And same with this one. It feels, I know it's the scrippity scraps, but it feels like it's not, there's a lot of things that are happening that, you know, I would say you could do more with a big black shape. You're starting again, as I look at it, I'm starting to see that relationship between positive, negative. And just as a review, it's like, is your eye looking at the white or the black? And can you tell if it's white on black or black on white? So that you're activating the space in such a way that the viewer is paying attention to both. So you're starting to do that, but it just feels like that heavy black piece.
I also feel like this feels like an accident here. Like I feel like this piece was down and then they moved the paper and then it was just lifted up. Like it doesn't feel very intentional over
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
And then this last one felt to me a lot like the second one, and all of them share that angle. Like even your scrippity scraps, you keep doing the same angle, or you know, the opposite. But this one felt very much like the second one, in terms of it's clearly an egg beater. There's a handle, there's a beater, and I think just in terms of a shape and a series of shapes, what's happening in the bottom of this egg beater is quite wonderful. But again, I'd say, how is it touching up on the upper left? What are you doing with the negative, positive, negative shape? And how can you abstract this even more so it doesn't feel like the same egg beater that we just saw? but we definitely need better photos, more process, and more just intentionality on all of your edges that you're hitting. Is that everyone?
Yeah.
All the planes? Whoa. All right, so lovely people in the planes group. Again, appreciate seeing all your process. For those of you that I said we want to see more process, it really is helpful, and it's a habit you just have to get into. Like, you have to document as you're going along, and then you don't have to show every single photo that you take, but look at some of the others in your group and other groups and kind of get a sense of like why one would show process and what you can get from other people's process. It's all part of the assignment. So again, I appreciate all the work and the abstraction, and sticking with an egg beater for that long is challenging in itself, but really terrific to see. So thank you all.